Trump's promises of retribution is where we begin the hour with Democratic Congressman and member of the House Judiciary Committee, Senate-elect Adam Schiff of California. Congratulations on your victory to the Senate. I want to ask you just a thought exercise. If your political retribution is to be carried out by what Trump will view as his Department of Justice, don't you want to keep the career lawyers who successfully indicted you?
Well, I don't know what strategy he would have for his political retribution tour. I could tell you, having spent almost 6 years in the Department of Justice, these are professionals. These are apolitical actors. It is not this deep state that Donald Trump keeps harping on. And I find this the most Orwellian doublespeak when Donald Trump talks about going after the weaponization of the Justice Department. He wants to weaponize the department. He wants to turn it into some political retribution agency, and not on behalf of the American people, just on behalf of Donald Trump. And I can tell you, coming off a successful Senate campaign in California, I heard a lot of people in California talk about crime and want something done on public safety. I heard no one say, I want Donald Trump to go on some retribution tour. No, they want to make sure their neighborhoods are safe. They want something done about this scourge of fentanyl. None of the stuff Trump is talking about. And if he views this as his mandate, I think he's going to be very poorly mistaken. But I also do worry about these career professionals at the Justice Department, less that he can successfully fire them, more that they will voluntarily leave and be replaced by people that are there just to do his bidding. That would change the whole character of the department in I think, a really destructive way.
Let me show you what Pam Bondi, who's his second choice after Matt Gaetz, said about political retribution.
When Republicans take back the White House, you know what's going to happen? The Department of Justice, the prosecutors will be prosecuted, the bad ones. The investigators will be investigated, because the deep state, last term for President Trump, they were hiding in the shadows. But now they have a spotlight on them, and they can all be investigated.
So I want to ask you a serious question. I mean, Trump tried this with Durham, and Durham took longer than Mueller, and I think spent more time, and he dragged all of Trump's perceived political enemies through a legitimate DOJ-backed investigation for years. And nothing happened. Cases were opened. 2 cases went to trial, and Durham lost both of them. Durham's longtime prosecuting partner of decades left over professional moral objections to what she saw as an effort to politicize prosecutions. It feels like the department could be full of Durhams, right? People who are given all this power but still have to make cases and take them to juries and obtain convictions. Or is that an overread? Is it simply to have DOJ run by a bunch of John Durhams?
No, I don't think it's an overread. You could very well see a number of prosecutors like Durham appointed who spend years and years and millions of taxpayer dollars and come up with nothing. If Pam Bondi follows through on what she's pledged to do, which is to investigate non-existent voter fraud, for example, or to go after the prosecutors, well, what does that mean? Does that mean that she's also going to go after the grand jurors who found there was probable cause to believe Donald Trump was engaged in multiple crimes? Is she going to dispute the fact that Trump had boxes and boxes of documents in Mar-a-Lago, many of them highly classified, that he obstructed the investigation? Is she going to somehow contest that there was a massive attack on the Capitol and all he did to incite it? So I'm not really sure what these prosecutors investigating the prosecutors are going to do, except waste a lot of time and money. But maybe, their goal is to harass. If they're seasoned prosecutors, and some of them will be, they'll know they don't have the evidence. They're not likely to find the evidence. The most they can do is try to raise the cost of standing up to Trump on dedicated public servants. But, that, too, would be a tragic misuse of taxpayer resources. But I think it's not too much to expect that there may be Durham-like, fruitless, long-term, costly investigations.
What is your mindset as you head to the U.S. Senate in terms of being a check on Trump?
Well, my mindset is, look, we don't have 4 years to stand still. We can't waste 4 years not moving the country forward, not addressing some of the economic challenges that we have, like the lack of affordable housing and the high cost of childcare and other needs of families. So my first priority is, how do we get things done on those core issues that I think people really were voting about in the election? But I also feel, hey, where Donald Trump goes after the rights and freedoms of the American people, where he abuses his office, which is probably inevitable, then I'm going to stand up to him, and I'm going to expect others to do the same thing. I'm not going to shy away from it, nor let these threats stop me from doing my job. I think that's what Californians are expecting of me.
Are you surprised how much of what Timothy Snyder calls, obeying in advance has happened? It feels like in the 3 weeks since Trump was reelected, he's changed the fabric and the tone and tenor of the country already.
I think that's true. I think that people are still trying to wrap their heads around what the election means. I know I still am, but you have already seen leading up to the election certain acts of self-censorship. I think the decisions by the Washington Post and the LA Times not to issue their editorials are a form of self-censorship. You see a long delay, for example, in the film about Trump coming out to theaters, another form of self-censorship. You probably are seeing people in the intelligence community and at the Justice Department already looking for different jobs, not because they have to, but because they don't want to be part of the tearing down of an institution that protects the country that they deeply believe in. And so, yes, I think it's already having a preemptive impact. It's having a further impact as you see people looking for the doors. And, sadly, they'll be replaced by people who are not as competent, not as experienced, not as dedicated to the mission of protecting the country and attacking crime, but people are simply more devoted to the personal grievances of Donald Trump.
I mean, what's interesting about the Gates pick and now the Bondi pick is that there's no department that will be more central to determining the early success or failure of Trump's second term than the Department of Justice. Because other than DHS, and I guess in Trump's mind, the Pentagon, DHS or DOJ touches all of the immigration policy he wants to. Child separation ran through Rod Rosenstein, who signed all of those documents. Crime is something that he successfully, narratively tried to project onto the electorate in a fear-mongering way and intersecting that with immigration. If he deconstructs the Department of Justice in the way you're describing, where people who are good and loyal and faithful to the rule of law either are fired and chased out or leave ahead of that, and replaces them with people who are subpar, they will not be the best people to do what the Department of Justice has to do to ensure Donald Trump's success. Who could make that argument to him?
Well, I'm not sure, because those that could stand up to him, those that had some independence and gravitas, were drummed out of the first Trump administration in rapid order. And he's not choosing those kind of people for the Trump administration this time. What he's doing is essentially announcing a Saturday night massacre at the Justice Department in advance. Something that Richard Nixon tried to do, but was threatened with resignations, and in fact did see resignations rather than carry out those kind of politicized orders. We're seeing this in advance and in broad daylight and with great pride announced by Donald Trump. I think what we're likely to see if he keeps to the present course is less of a focus on what voters were looking for, that is dealing with crime, dealing with the border crisis, more of a focus on political retribution. And what we'll get is political retribution and a marketing campaign to tell us how much safer we are when he has really put his focus elsewhere. So I think we can expect a good marketing campaign. He's nothing if not a good marketer. But what he's proposing to do to the Justice Department is going to make us less safe. It's not going to address the challenge in our cities and in our rural areas as well. And that's a profound disservice.
Senator-elect Adam Schiff, thank you for joining us, starting us off today. It's nice to see you.